coasters! Roar! Well, I've clearly run out of ideas for these. Hello. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Brett, and welcome to another episode of Brett Learns a Lesson While Playing a Video Game, aka Breakwater Point. Yes, I think I finally learned my lesson and reeled myself back in with building within my means. But before we get to that, let's address the last episode. It was just a mess, and I got way too in over my head with the build. But hey, you know what? We're looking at it now, and as you can see, I did finish it. So before we take a look at the new part, let's go ahead and just kind of recap. I was able to go in and finish everything in our new edition with Riptide and Luska. All the I guess you would call it like the I don't even know, the word escapes me right now. Sidewalk details, doodads, I don't lighting details, all that stuff is done. Wow, I am just struggling right out of the gate already. I apologize, but everything is pretty much squared away at this point. All the foliage and tree work is done. All the lighting and everything has been completed on our boardwalk and around it. Quick little take a look here. Obviously, it looks really repetitive and same. Oh my gosh, I've got the hiccups. What is going on? Sorry. Cut that. Bloop. As you can see, wow, the boardwalk is done. Pretty repetitive and samey, but the whole park is kind of starting to feel that way. But with limited assets in the game, it is what it is. But it turned out pretty nice. I like it. It's a cool little chill spot in the area right on the water. You can overlook Luska, the big RMC, and obviously you've got Riptide, the tilt coaster, which I will cut away here shortly and give you updated POVs on those since the last ones were pretty shameful. Started doing signs. Griffin's Flight has a pretty basic sign right here. I haven't done the Phoenix Fire one yet. As you can see, this part still hasn't been done, but I figured I can kind of just work that in once I work on the back part of the park here. Luska, same kind of. Ooh, weird. Got some lag there. Luska has another pretty simple sign, but I think it works for the style of the park. Everything inside Luska is done. Everything for Riptide is done. And yes, finally, after 3 or 4 episodes, Skybreaker's scenery is all done. I did cheat a little bit. I got sick of doing footers, so I buried it with the beach cabbage and trees, but who cares? You can't go over there anyway, and you're not going to see it from the ride, so it is what it is. It works. I wanted to let the coaster breathe a little bit more, but with as tall as it is, the trees really don't affect a whole lot of the ride until you get into the later half of it, but it still adds a pretty nice, unique element, and I like it. So before I start talking about what I'm working on this episode, let's go ahead and take a couple updated POV rides on Riptide, Luska, and Skybreaker. I'll catch you back here in just a couple seconds. Alright, so if you caught the last episode, you might have noticed a couple things. I did make some minor tweaks to layouts for both Riptide and Luska. Not too crazy. I kind of reprofiled this first I don't even know what you call it, airtime dive hill on Riptide. And then I did kind of revamp the pre-lift on Luska. I also added the catwalk to the lift, which I had originally forgot. It's not super, realistic. Obviously, they would have a little bit more to it, but for what I can do in the game, it is what it is. And obviously, I did finish out the scenery around Skybreaker, so that is all said and done. So we don't have to worry about that again until the park tour. And yeah, I've seen that I threw another volcano into the water area here. I was kind of getting away from the whole idea of Volcano Valley being the name of this area, so I'm going to try and start working that back into this part of the park a little bit. And then while we were on Riptide, you might have noticed a little bit of a spoiler, which is part of the new area I've been working on, so let's go take a look at that. Alright, so as you can see, like I said in the beginning of the video, I learned my lesson and I reined myself in a little bit. So back to the original build style, keeping it smaller and not two coasters. That being said, I still have a coaster. We've got some flat rides. We've got our new part of the park that I'm working on, so let's take a look. Obviously, the two flat rides right out in the front here. We got the Cube and the Forge, which have this little kind of like kick out off the walkway, which is going to be all themed up and seen, and really nice little kind of walk through for the rides. I've already placed in a toilet block and some vending machines. I'm going to try and think of something to put in here, as well as something to go here. And you can see that there's like this little bridge area kind of coming through with the footpath to connect the two areas. I have ideas for this, but we're not going to talk about that now because that's, future things to come. So let's talk about it. The roller coaster. I wanted to put this one in for a little while, and it is definitely not the original layout that I had in mind, but it works and I like it. We have our B&M Wing Coaster, and I have named it RZRWNG. RZRWNG was a B&M coaster that I had in the original Breakwater Woods, which was heavily inspired by Gatekeeper at Cedar Point. Very similar layout with the 0G and the airtime over the gate, park gate, kind of like hang tennas over here. And I just wanted to do a callback to that because I think the B&M Wing is a great coaster, and RZRWNG was just one of those name ideas that I knew I had to bring back because I'm really fond of it. But however, this one is a little bit more tight and compact, a little bit more stuff lower to the ground and not as open, I guess is the word I'm going to call it, as the original one. This kind of rides more like a B&M floorless or stand-up if they still have them, but it's a cool coaster, green across the board, and I like it. It's going to have a lot of close calls and keyholes with volcanoes, callback. This whole area is going to be really themed up heavily around that idea, just to try and tie back into the original idea that I had played around with calling this Volcano Valley, because I really feel like it got away from me. It is obviously a little bit more prevalent over in the Shrieking Tiki and Lava Racer area, so really want to draw that back in and kind of get back to that to tie it all in. We really lost it with Skybreaker and all this stuff over here, so we're gonna get back to that, and that's gonna start with RZRWNG. So real quick, you can see there are no supports, in-game supports. They look absolutely atrocious. I hated them, so I knew right out of the gate I was going to have to do custom, which you can see I've already started doing. And I'm actually really liking the way they're turning out, especially the big, I think they're calling it the wing over element. It's on the new B&M. The name escapes me. Hold on one second. Sorry, had to do a quick Google search. The new B&M wing going in at King's Dominion, I believe, Rapterra, has this element. It's almost like a top hat for the wing coaster. So I knew I had to have that in it. So, and I did the custom supports, which I think turned out really, really nice with the volcano around it. You got your keyhole element here, uh, like Gatekeeper and was it X-Flight, I believe. It's not a 0G roll, just a regular air hill, but the close quarter or the close calls are really nice on it. Into the wing over, which has another close call into it and a close call out of it. And that whole kind of idea is going to stick through with the rest of the theme. I did the custom supports on the mid-course. But yeah, I'm not going to really talk about the layout because you'll get an experience when we take a ride on it. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. Obviously, the area feels a little lacking again, but I will fill it in and bring it to life. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on that, and I'll see you back here in just a second. All right, so lesson definitely learned. Scale it down, get back to business with building good areas that don't take you ages to do. With that being said, I absolutely love the way this part of the park turned out. It just looks so good to me. It is a bit congested and chaotic with all the foliage, but I think it works. RZRWNG ended up turning out awesome, especially with the custom supports, which actually were a lot easier to do than I was expecting, especially after trying to do the RMC and the Giga. I think they turned out awesome. They're not the traditional sense of supports, but I think they look believable, like they would actually function properly. The supporting on the mid-course looks a little unrealistic, maybe, but I think it works. It looks like it would be structurally sound. All the crazy supports for like the wing over drop and the top hat, this is what I'm going to call it, all turned out really good. And like completely to my surprise, I didn't have to fight with the layout to get the supports to really work. There was maybe one or two areas where I had to kind of fudge it a little, but all in all, they turned out good and they were easy to do. So very happy with the way they all turned out. Obviously not the traditional sense for the lift, but it works. They're there. I'm not going to change it. I like the way they look, so they're there. Finished up the basic little maintenance area with full access to the train if they ever needed it, next to the exit. And I finally did my own actual custom sign for a ride rather than just using the in-game font. I figured it was finally time to try, and I kind of had an idea of how I wanted it to turn out, and I love it. RZRWNG proudly sporting the first true sign, custom sign at least. Everything else in the area has been filled in with the foliage. Got a nice queue line for the coaster. Got a couple little restaurants around the bathroom block, which I tried to get back into the style that I did the Beer Umbrella Tap House in because I liked that, and I was talking about incorporating it, and I feel like this is the good area to do it. Interiors are somewhat done. All I did was I just copied and pasted more or less the same build over here. Restaurants, milkshakes. The bathroom block is similar, but just slightly different. Still kind of holds the same style though. The flat rides are all nicely incorporated now, which I did name the cube Danger Cube. Little inside joke in the good nice. The Forge has yet to be named. I have quite a few flat rides still in the park that don't have custom names or signs, but I'll do that in the last update if I even talk about them prior to the final park tour, but those are kind of not as important at the moment. I'm kind of stumped with names for those, so we'll just ignore that. And then as you can see, I really did try to get back into the idea of the Volcano Valley theme, so there's a lot of heavy rock work, not necessarily volcanoes, but still kind of falling with that whole idea. There are more keyholes added into the Razor Wing to help fill in that theming and just really add more of those close quarter calls on the ride and add that extra bit of thrilling element to it. But yeah, for the most part, this area is done. As I'm saying that, I noticed I did not put in my benches and trash cans and stuff, but whatevs, that can be added in after we're done recording. Not a huge deal. So yeah, I think that about sums it up. We get the overlook from the last couple builds, and the park is really filling in quite nicely. As you can see, I did kind of line out the last big chunk of the park with the pathing. I've got a couple ideas brewing, but obviously those are coming in the later episodes. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I'm honestly thinking I might have 3 or 4 more episodes before the final park episode. So we're getting down to it. And honestly, the speed that I'm building this mega park at is just crazy when you consider how long it took me in Planko 1 to build a mega park. But to be fair, this park isn't necessarily as detailed as what I usually would do, especially when I'm doing over-the-top theming stuff. But it works, and I'm really liking it for my first outing. So yeah, I think that's about going to be it for this episode. My name is Bread. Thanks for waiting it out with me to get back on track. I think I'm still going to stick to the bi-weekly just to get a little ahead of schedule, but I think it's working so far. So if you haven't already, please hit like and subscribe, and let's go take a ride on Razor Wing, and I'll see you again on the next one. Take care, everybody.